July 15th meeting of the Municipal Facilities Optimization Committee, and this is kind of our kickoff meeting. We now have a full team in place, and we're going to get going on this project in full gear. So, we have a quorum. This meeting is called to order, and the first item on the agenda is to review and act to approve the meeting minutes of July 1, 2024. Any questions or comments on the minutes? There being none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of July 1, 2024. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted unanimously, 4-0. 4-0. Next on the agenda, review and discuss the work plan from, I want to make sure I pronounce this correctly. Is it Helen
Carl.
Yes.
Yes.
Architects Incorporated. But before we do that, since this is our kickoff meeting, I think we should go around the room and introduce ourselves. Why don't we start from here and we'll work our way around?
Sure. Mike Liberty, resident.
Okay, and I'm Patrick Pitney. I'm chair of the committee.
I'm Beth Cassavant. I am the select board representative and the vice chair of the committee.
Keith Baldinger, Assistant Town Manager of Operations.
And we also have Justin Dobson here, assisting the entire committee and is invaluable to our efforts.
Greg Yanchenko, Helen Carl Architects Principal.
Mike Viana, Helen Call Architects, Project Architect.
Matt Sturz, Project Manager with Vertex, the town's OPM.
Steve Theron, Project Manager of Vertex OPM, and John, a moment ago, was on the screen. John Lemieux is here as well, virtually.
I'm here, thank you.
Hi, John. Thanks for joining us. Well, thank you, everybody. With that, we'll get right to it. And we have, I think, a presentation from Helen Carl Architects. So, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. It's not really a presentation. Steve and I had a brief conversation prior to this. He had sent the agenda. We reviewed it. We touched base and everything. And basically what we did, and the only reason I brought the interview is I know that at the interview we had proposed a couple options. And again, nothing set in stone. It was just to initiate the dialogue. So there are a couple items that I would just like to go over and just kind of see if the committee had a direction that they wanted to move in and focus on, and then we can kind of get into the nuts and bolts of working through some of the items that we need. Keith, I think it's my understanding that you'll be kind of spearheading a lot of the technical aspects from the DPW and everything.
I will be organizing the people that have all the technical.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, I think when we made the presentation, you will see that we had kind of done three options. One was in addition to the garage, the existing highway garage. Next one was a freestanding building adjacent to the existing sewer and water building. And again, the goal was to keep the existing sewer and water building in operation during construction so that you would not have to relocate that operation. Next one is, this one happens to be a freestanding, but in this case, it's, does take out the existing water and sewer. And I believe that those were the three concepts. Couple of the items that we had just talked about is relocating the composting pile, or I refer to it, if there's a better name, I'll be happy to call it whatever you all would like to. There was also some discussions and presentations that you may want to consider the fueling station relocation. Again, not saying that it is moving or anything, but those were some of the discussions. So first of all, I'd just like to ask, was there a general consensus as to a direction you all would like to move in? Or you're saying it's still open and we'll be exploring all sorts of options?
Keith?
So I think at this point, these are great concepts, but I think, going through the feasibility study, really understanding what we have for buildings and what might be the best for the site, going through that process, I think is super important for us to do that.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need all the information we can get and then, make a more informed decision at that point.
All right, that's perfectly fine. So one thing I will say is if you see the little light green dot next to the composting pile there, that was identified as potential wetlands, okay? And one thing I will say is, while it's a very small dot, I don't think the area is much bigger than 20 by 20, maybe 30 by 30. If it is classified as a wetlands, it has an impact on everything on this site. Because when you get your setbacks and everything, whether it's the 75 or the 50, 100-foot buffer and all that other stuff, as you can see, it's basically in your existing buildings, all the setbacks and the buffers and everything. So that would be one of the first priorities that we would say we should make a determination. And again, as a committee, or we can bring in consultants and everything, however you would like to do it, to say, is that area a wetlands? Now, just because it has cattails in it does not mean it's necessarily a wetlands, because we've done plenty of DPW facilities where they were old drainage ditches or, storage bins or whatever you want to call it, that just happened to sprout a few cattails. But it was always man-made, it was always, so I don't know if the committee has, or Keith, if you have any insight on that. Is that a wetlands, or is that just an old drainage ditch that happens to look, some grasses that look like cattails?
My understanding, it is a drainage outfall,
Okay,
but we know we don't have wetland delineation on that property yet, so.
okay. That's great news then. So would you want to do a survey on that to have a wetlands delineation, or do you just want to accept it here? And as long as COMCOM buys into it, I am perfectly fine. I'm
No, we'll have to go through the wetland delineation process.
Okay. Then the next item on that is, based on what I could find from the, assessor's maps and everything, and again, did not do a thorough research to, you have about 13 acres that comprise the site. As you can see, that's kind of falling off the map. If you go back one slide, please, Justin. Oh, a couple more, I guess. Let's see. One more. There it is, yes. So as you can see, kind of the trapezoidal shape there, that is one parcel that's been identified that the town clearly owns. The other one looks kind of like an easement, like it used to be a utility railroad easement or something there. And one of the things that we've noticed about that is you do have some current operations on, and again, I'm going to loosely call it, if it's not an easement, by all means, I'll be happy to correct that language. But does the town own that easement land? So that's technically a part of the parcel then, or
Yes.
even though it's, okay. So that's great news. Keith, if you keep this up, it's going to be an easy approach to all of this. So, okay, so the question then comes up is, are you looking to put the entire 13 acres into play, or are you looking to keep the footprint pretty much within the current, and I'm going to call disturbed areas? I'm sure all the areas have been disturbed because I've seen piles and, operations. It's just that the vegetation has matured in some of the back areas and stuff. But because you do have that 13 acres, there is potential that, and again, since it's an open feasibility study, potentially the building could be located in the clump of trees area behind there, and you move them off the front area or something. Just don't know if that's something that you all are looking to do, or you're looking to try to focus this in primarily on the currently disturbed areas.
I think that would be the focus for now, and if there's other areas that are identified that could benefit us, then I think we would.
Yeah. Beth, you had mentioned
Yeah.
something a few meetings ago about a trail being back there, which I'm unfamiliar with.
Right, so Trails Committee members had approached me informally when I was at one of their walks, saying that there's a trail in the back. It has a name, but I can't remember what it's called. I can
Rail
look it up.
trail?
What's that?
The rail trail?
It might be.
Might be,
And is there a way to restore that trail, because it's a nice connection point from the neighborhood behind to, I think, the Price Chopper Plaza? And so when you talk about disturbing trees, right, you have the big clump of trees that sort of, abuts, I believe that's like the apartments, right?
Yes.
So just to be clear, and again, because I did not, I obviously went to the main site. Are these the apartments down here?
Yes,
Okay, and then this is,
a neighborhood.
right, and then where is you said the
it's
Price
actually,
Choppers?
Shoots right out to Route 9, corner of Route 9 and South Street.
Yeah, not on the map.
Down here, okay. So, so you're thinking this trail is running somewhere in here?
I think it runs down.
Right.
This way?
Yep, I think so. And I'm sure we could find it if we were out there.
Okay, so maybe, yeah, all right.
But I mean, I would want to keep some sort of a tree buffer, against the residential
Yes.
portions. I wouldn't be opposed to taking down some of the trees, if it wasn't going to, reduce the natural buffer, on the
Yeah, if we
internal
need-
part,
yeah, If we
right?
needed the space. yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a huge demand for green space in town.
But no one, this green space is not benefiting anybody except for that it's a buffer.
Right, right.
Which is truly important for that operation, especially.
Yes.
It's loud.
Especially emergency operations, winter
Yes.
time. So,
Especially where you come up to the daycare center, the Little Begin, is that Little Begin, no, it's not Little Beginnings, I can't remember the name. I live on Floral Street, I can't think of the name of it.
The schoolhouse?
Yeah.
It might be Little Beginning. I don't know.
Might-
I know what you mean, though.
Yeah, Little Beginnings is right where the trapezoidal lot hits
Yeah.
that corner, yeah, okay.
So
And I
that-
would
That
concur,
we definitely want,
yeah,
keep a buffer there.
I would concur that a buffer with the neighbors and is always a very positive thing. On the other hand, just wanted to ask the question,
Mhm.
because it's easier to ask now than to go down a path and then you all say, what are you doing? Because I do know some DPW directors would tell me to clear cut their entire site.
yeah, we don't
that.
want
No, 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 no.
that here.
I'm not saying you do, but I'm just saying there have been some that said, could you clear cut my site? And I said, not in good conscience,
But,
So, okay, so, so that's kind of, so those were kind of like the big items that I, wanted to address first, and then I'll get into more, specific items. One thing I'm trying to do is get a better understanding of the town hall component. Currently, my understanding is that you have, operations committees, people, staff, whatever you want to say, that are working on the second floor that should probably be more closely associated with the highway garage and sewer, department and everything, that you would like to have them move on to the site. Is it just getting them off and out of town hall, and then town hall becomes a separate project? Or there was some discussion about, well, then once they're out of there, the study is supposed to consider whether they expand the sprinkler system in town hall and all this. I would just like to get a better definition of what town hall means.
Sure. So generally, there's about 30 DPW staff that work on the second floor here. This is all our division managers, administrative staff, engineers, and others up there. There's about a little over 4,000 square feet of space up there. And they're bursting at the seams there's no room left.
Okay,
So part of this conceptual study, feasibility study, is to determine if South Street has the capacity or there's an opportunity there to move that staff there. And then through our town hall study that we did 2 years ago, which was part of the RFP, which we shared with you for the RFP, there are maybe opportunities for other departments to utilize that space. Because town hall in general is full of staff. And then the building itself generally needs updates, both with MEP, fire suppression, fire alarm, and general cosmetic. The carpet's 30 years old, window shades are probably 60 years old, that type of thing. General renovation. The front of this building has not been renovated since new. And this rear section is 1997.
okay.
So. We are fortunate, the building has a brand-new roof on it. We've been doing some other work. So it's mostly interior and MEP work that'll need to be done here.
And you're primarily looking to just get pricing on that, or are you probably looking to program, I mean, what?
We'll need to design it. The programming is the programming is a piece that we'll have to work through.
Okay.
So for the scope of work that he'll create, maybe the way to do that is to propose a scope of work, and then we have to decide what we're gonna include in bid documents. So, maybe I guess we don't have to get too far ahead. Maybe we look at the whole budget package and decide what scope and budget we bring
Yep.
forward. So maybe that's the way to do that, just
I
kind of
think so,
thinking.
yeah.
You said a lot, more than I realized.
Yep.
For this building. But maybe that's the way to do that, is we're creating a scope and budget here with this process, so.
And I think the focus needs to be the South Street property, and renovating or replacing or whatever the answer is for those buildings there, and to see if there is opportunities to move staff there. I think the town, for this next 60 days, I think the town hall piece, we can certainly work on potential costs and a budget for what needs to be done in this building. I think some of the detailed design aspects of that may come during the design
Okay,
program. Because I
That's great
think
to
the
know.
South Street property is much more important.
Sure.
And town hall is a piece of that, as important, but I think the details for the South Street are much more difficult to figure out, since we have done so many studies on this
right.
building over the past 4 years.
So what I've experienced on other projects that we've done and stuff, I'm pretty confident saying right now that your existing South Street site could support the 30 staff plus. I don't see that as a challenge. Now, unless you tell me that you want them all to have individual, 10 by 10 huts that are connected to this grand atrium and swimming pool and stuff, which doesn't sound like that's what you want. Whether it goes to a second floor or stays on a first floor, obviously there's some economy of scales by going to a second floor. The big drawback on that is called the elevator. And elevators right now are running anywhere from $800 to $1 million. Don't ask me why, just the world that we live in today. And then obviously there's a maintenance component on that elevator subsequent to moving in. And again, I've seen those contracts vary from $10,000 a year up to about $30,000 or $40,000 a year to maintain them. And I'm sure you have an elevator here, and I know you probably have an elevator contract on that.
We have 16 of them.
Yeah, so you pay half your town budget maintaining the elevator. It probably feels like that, right? So, but in any,
But Keith, we don't have to move all 30 staff over to South Street. How many exactly, approximately, would be moving from here to South Street?
Well, it could be 30.
It could be
could
30,
be
up to
30.
30?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Because I thought, so that would be the whole second floor then, is just, we're moving them all then?
Yeah, I mean, there's
Potentially.
4 staff that are recreation department, which wouldn't move.
Which wouldn't
So
move,
there's actually
okay.
like 34 people.
All right.
there, but-
I just wanted to be clear on that, because I was a little bit confused, because I knew Parks and Rec was up there.
Yep,
But they would stay,
they would stay somewhere, yep.
okay.
well, again, this site could afford it, parking could probably be accommodated for it, and depending on how we configure the building, I think again, we haven't done the study and the layout, but there's a pretty good odds that you could get that staff and future staff in the facility, in that general area, without a struggle,
Okay.
So I guess it's one of the better sites we've worked on. It's not a landfill, and it's not bound by just 3 square inches of space. So you've got that definitely going for the site. So we've talked about the town hall and stuff. So then getting into some of the logistics that we would need is there a vehicle inventory list?
Yeah, we have a lot of that information, and a lot of that information will be shared with your team through our DPW division managers.
Okay,
And I would expect that you would be meeting with them either as a group or individually, communicating in some fashion. They have all the details.
okay. But that's something I could request immediately. and
absolutely.
Should I go through Steve? I mean, that's the other thing. We should probably talk about the protocols. Do I contact you directly? Do I work through Steve, or do I work with you directly and then?
There's no reason
copies-
for you and your team to go through us to go to the client.
Okay. So are you our primary point of contact?
Yeah, and then we keep this OPMCC
Okay, that's
on
fine.
everything.
And I don't mind meeting, one-on-one with the highway,
Yep.
superintendent or this, sewer. It's just, that's good to know, then we will make you the contact. and then I assume emails are okay for you?
Mhm.
I mean, typically what we like to do is at least put things in email saying that we'd like to meet with or do the survey on Friday, let everybody know. If you tell me, keep it to a tight group, we'll keep it to a tight group. If you need to share it with other people, I find text is not convenient for
Yeah.
that.
I
Smoke
think-
signals and all these other methods that I seem to get some days, you wonder, but as long as you're good with emails, that's great.
Yep, and one of the things that we'll do is I'll share the entire division manager list. So
Okay.
you'll be able to work with them directly as needed,
Okay.
all of that.
So, because we will be asking for, and if we can get that, like tomorrow, we'd take it and look at it,
Yep.
vehicle staff, inventory list, staffing and personnel list, just to get a sense, like, who are the techs and the line crews or, that are working and stuff, to help understand how, locker room sizes and things like that, as well as what directors or supervisors may need, office and stuff. I don't know if the town has any standards for any of that. For example, I know some of the places we work with, if you're a director or a supervisor, you get a private office. If you're anything else, you get a cubicle. Again, that's something we will be happy to work with. I just didn't know if you have any standards off the top that you,
We actually have conceptual drawings that will show all that.
okay,
We can
great.
Lay all that out for you too, we have that.
All right. One of the things that I think we showed as optional services was a series of things we believe will be important. A survey, borings ultimately, hazmat, wetlands delineation. We've put those as reimbursable expenses. If you have that information, like if you told me you had a topographic survey today, I would be thrilled, because we're looking at probably 4 to 6 weeks to get a topographic survey. If you give me permission, say, we don't have a topographic survey, hire, Hancock or WPS or whatever. If I get them on the list today, I probably won't see that survey for about 4 to
Yes,
6 weeks.
so we have partial topographic survey for the site because of the salt shed, and then we also have state flyover. So because of the way the site is, I think according to our town engineer, he can get you a
Okay.
pretty close survey in CAD
Great.
to at least get us through conceptual. Once we start getting into building process, we would have to
So
actually.
at this point in time, you don't see a need for a survey?
No.
Okay, great.
And then we have some geotech borings from the salt shed project. We believe those will be helpful. Whether or not you'll need more, I don't know. We have no hazardous material information on the buildings. There may be some from the geotech explorings on the site for the salt shed. We have full plans and information on the underground storage tanks for the fuel island, because that's not that old.
Do you know how old those are approximately?
2010, 12, in that neighborhood.
Okay, so they're about 14, 15 years
Yeah.
old. Okay.
And then we have full building plans, original building plans for the highway garage, for the big
Okay.
garage. We don't have anything for the water and sewer.
And I'm
garage.
guessing that highway garage is like late 70s, early 80s?
76.
What is it? What year?
76.
He said 76.
Yep. Well ahead of its time by 1976 standards, actually.
And it's in relatively good shape.
Mhm.
I mean, overall, the
Year-old building.
interior, for that age, and it's been, again, the translucent panels are a little faded, but the rest of the building, it just looks like it needs a cleaning, a little repointing,
Yep.
Yep.
Yep,
but
it's
it's
in good condition.
overall, it's, in decent shape. Okay,
Let's talk about the abatement side. As I mentioned, they do like Universal here,
Mhm.
environmental consultants. If you want to reach out, or I can reach out to them to see what their availability is, I can reach out to them and just see what their availability is to come out and all, just to look at this quickly because we do want to know what these buildings have in it, the two buildings may have in it, and they'll know. Do a visit and they'll give us a report.
okay, so you'll arrange for that?
Yep.
Okay, great. And it's relatively short money in the overall scheme of things, but it will be critical.
Mhm.
Oh, we can't have that hanging out there. No
Yeah, we
doubt.
need to
Right.
have that, for sure.
Yeah.
Same thing with the wetlands delineation.
Yep. Do you know if your engineer has a preferred delineator?
So he suggested Ecotech.
Yeah, okay.
Do that work.
Survey and delineation
Yep.
as well, okay.
So you're gonna be handling that against,
Yeah, we can reach out, I mean, to be clear, we're not gonna do the design, we're having to call the guy and communicate with him and find out what.
right, but I guess
Yeah.
when I say, I don't mind coordinating the effort and stuff, I guess just the mechanism. Is the town under contract with these consultants that they can bill directly? Is it running through us as a reimbursable expense? I'm happy either way, I just need
We'll figure all that out.
okay,
Yeah, figure out, I mean, my preference is the OPM, is to have everything go through you guys. Happy to, make calls and get the guys, find out what their availability is and all that, but if everything goes through you guys, then there aren't any missing pieces out there somehow, just.
oh, absolutely, that's fine,
Respond
yeah,
to what he is to be, and, that just is a mess, so everything to go through you guys.
okay.
We'll reach out, as we just said,
Mhm.
and get it started, but especially the survey guys. There's always something missing from the survey that's inconvenient somehow.
Well, it sounds like what Keith is telling us, that he's got, let's say even if it's, 85% of the thing.
Right.
It's more than we usually have to start with. Depending on where the project goes, I mean, I will have Peter Glick, our civil engineer, review it. It may be adequate for what we are doing to get through the study.
Yeah.
And then come, if you decide to proceed with the job, maybe we do have to fill in some holes, but that's a great start on that one. 21E, has a 21E be done on this site?
Great question. And I don't have the answer.
Could you just let the committee know? I don't know what a 21E is.
Okay, so the 21E is the environmental assessment of
Okay.
the site.
Mhm.
And it usually is two phases. They do the initial phase one, which is relatively short money, and I say short money again, we just did Boxford, who has a landfill and everything else, or was Whitman, sorry. Whitman, not Boxford, but Whitman, and it ran like $6,500, $10,000, somewhere in that. And basically what happens is the LSP, the licensed site professional, will go through all the records and everything to see if it was ever a fuel depot site, whether the railroads, has there been any spills, prior thing. And then they'll do the phase one assessment. Depending on the phase one assessment, then they will make the determination in whether you do the phase two assessment. Now, the phase two assessment is a crapshoot on what it's going to cost. Because under phase one, if they find out, like we did when we did Wakefield, there was a coal tar plant, we spent probably $2 million cleaning and remediating soils and stuff. But until we know initially what it is, for all we know, this could have been a pasture. They put the building up in '76. Or has it always been a DPW?
It's always been DPW because the water and sewer garage was the highway garage first, that we think that was built in the 50s.
Okay, so if that's the case, then chances are this site is clean, but without knowing that. Now, one thing I can do is we can be happy to arrange for that. We typically use Andrea Stiller, but I cannot contract for that. That is something that the town would have to contract, and it's because our insurance won't let us contract for that. If you have an LSP that you want to use, that's fine too, but we will be happy to coordinate with them.
We'll just add it to the list of things that I'll just check on that, see if there's been one done or not.
Because the other thing is, you said that you replaced the fuel tanks about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
The question is, was that where the original fuel tanks were, and did they do a cleanup or anything
Right.
when they replaced those?
I know they put them back in the same place they used to be.
Right.
How long they were there, I have no idea.
Right, and whether they did it, because again, at Whitman, I know that they quote-unquote did a cleanup of the old fuel tanks. When we were digging last week or the week before, we managed to hit the fuel tank that they didn't bother to clean, which created some problems, needless to say, so. All right, so that takes care of that. Again, it could have been my perception, so please correct me if I'm wrong. When we did do the presentation, I don't think the fuel island was on the agenda to relocate or anything else. But on the other hand, I got the impression that it's not necessarily ruled out not to relocate it, unless you're telling me now, it's ruling out, we're not relocating it. It just seemed like if it made sense for the overall site as part of the study, it might be in play. Is there a sense on that yet?
Well, I agree with your last statement, but I would suggest that there's more conversations with our division managers to decide if that's
Okay,
a good idea or not. I mean, our highway division manager manages that island, and he has all the information on it, so he would be the person to have a good conversation with.
okay. Because again, I know a lot of the DPWs are now going to all the above-ground fuel islands just for ease of maintenance and everything. But really, when we were looking at it, it had nothing to do with whether it was a new, old, or in between. It was really, does it make sense? And one of the concerns that we had actually seen is, and I believe I spoke with one of the gentlemen, I said, it is right there on the entrance. And if somebody takes a wrong turn, comes in and plows it, and I'm not saying catastrophic thing, that they, blow up the site or anything. It's just, if a plow hit one of those things, it could cripple the site temporarily. So that was really more the issue on that. And then, if we can also get those studies that you're talking about, Keith, I may have some of them but if we can just get it, that would be spectacular, that'd be very helpful.
I have the DPW team, I've set up a Google Drive for all of them to drop items in, so we'll be able to add your team to it,
Great,
so you can see all that stuff.
all right. One of the things that we do, in full disclosure, we own the company, it's called Bid Docs Online. We can put everybody on the committee there. What it does is it allows us to it's a repository that it also processes and does other stuff. But the point simply being is, it'd be one single place that all the studies and everything could be. You'd be able to go online 2 o'clock in the morning if you have nothing better to do, look at the drawings or something. It's just, we find it very easy to, it's part of our fee. It's a state-approved company, IST 75. So, it's a mechanism that we find, plus and it allows us to transfer documents up to half a gigabyte, so that when we get record drawings and stuff, because I know a lot of people use Dropbox or some of this other stuff, it just becomes a hassle where whoever's on your highway device, they could literally just load it up on File Exchange with no problems, and everybody would have access to that information. So we would like to use that. Hopefully you guys are fine with that. It's just a mechanism we find very easy to use.
Yeah, I don't anticipate any problem with that.
We've used the service on the bidding side for years, actually on the electronic bidding side, Bid Docs Online. I haven't used the file storage approach. It's a fabulous thing to have, just as you described. We have a system that's somewhat does that as well, which is just an easy thing to go to. But happy to look at what you've got set up.
Sure.
Here for.
Yeah, and just to be clear on, so Bid Docs actually runs, we've automated the design, the bidding, and the construction phase, as well as archiving. There's already state templates and stuff in there for public works that's been reviewed by the AGO's office. So it's, if all of a sudden you said, congratulations, we're moving into design, we could immediately move into design, and you'll see the information just flowing. And then, as Steve just mentioned, when you're ready for bidding, you just push a button, sends it to bidding, you push a button, it sends it to construction. So
What the bidding does, it takes the place of the bid opening, all the envelopes and all that. So that's what it does. So instead of opening all the envelopes and reading all the bids and all that, it isn't really done that way anymore. It's all done electronically. So when it all gets submitted electronically to Bid Docs Online, so we don't see them or anything, Bid Docs Online sees them, and they post everything, scanned and post everything, but it's instant.
Right.
So that's the beauty of how that system works, and as I said, we've been using that for jobs for a long time now.
Okay.
and then at the end of each phase, we can zip them up for you, and it has everything. And like, even when you get into construction, I know you probably get those occasional requests for wage rates and stuff from.
Oh, yeah.
Period. It literally will take you 3 seconds, because you go in and you type in Griffin Electric, zoop, pulls them all together, hit the zip button, and they're done like that. And so it makes life a lot easier, I believe. So, okay, those are kind of my, big issues right now. What we're hoping that happens is, obviously, we've gone through our list. I'll be happy to send you the list if necessary, or if you just want to, however you want to get the information. If you got the information to us tomorrow, we'd be looking at it tomorrow. Literally, because, as you know, we have a pretty tight window to get this all done. Before we start, rummaging through the site and everything and talking to everybody, it would be nice to review whatever information you have so we can become a little more knowledgeable. Also take a look at like the record drawings and stuff to make sure we're viewing things in the proper light and we don't find out all of a sudden that all the buildings are on piles. Because that will have a different impact on
Sure.
life. You know, so those are the kinds of things we'll do. Then as we'll start scheduling, once we get that information kind of digested and start to move, we would definitely sit down. If the program has already been drafted from the previous study, we would work from that. If not, we will put a program together. I believe if you look at our proposal and everything, we're hoping to have kind of like all the legwork and everything done in the next 30 days.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is we've reviewed, we've talked to the various committee, staff and stakeholders in the process. We've pulled all this information together and we've kind of prepared some concepts that have obviously been discussed with the committee as well as you and your staff and everything to make sure that that's the direction. At the end of those 30 days or thereabouts, we would hope that you would say, okay, we're going to go with concept 1B, whatever. At which point then we would then focus in on 1B. What we would end up producing on that would be basic building floor plans. We would then get the site plan worked out so that you can see how that works. Not full grading, but at least with set elevations and stuff on the building so that we can work with that. Then we would do renderings for the building, start preparing the cost estimates and everything so that after the next 30 days, you basically have your package together ready to go on the, I always get the 9/10, you know, I think it's the 10th of September.
At the-
So you're not the 9th of September. So the 10th of September. I assume then that town meeting is sometime in October, November?
It's November, yeah.
Okay. We'll be happy to support you through that if you need us to. And I don't know how you're anticipating approaching town meeting. There's a couple ways, we've seen other towns do it. Some of them go for all the funding on day one.
Mhm.
Other towns go for just the design fee funding. I don't know if you have any sentiments on that. I will tell you, it's pushing a little late in November, because what town meeting do you know? Is it like November 15th?
November 18th.
Okay. You can't move it up to like the 3rd or the 8th?
We can. Nope.
So the idea is to have this package, the September 10th package is the package, and the budget that is assembled with that, along with the plans, is the total big number, and that will be requested. That's
At the
the
time,
direction
yeah,
we've
yeah.
been provided so far.
And the only reason I asked the question is because I know some of the towns are pretty adamant about going to town meeting for the big number, with the number in hand. So, for example, like Boxford, we are releasing the package so that they have that in hand, so come town, May meeting. It's not like, well, we think it's going to be 15 million, it's like, here it is. Hudson, on the other hand, did what you guys are talking about. They just said 20 million, and Eric Ryder, who's the director of the DPW, said, congratulations, it's 20 million. It's not 20 million and 1 cent, it's 20 million or less.
Mhm.
So that's just something we can work with you. Because
Well, it's either that or what we said, and the idea with creating the total budget and the concept of what that budget is, the scope and the budget, is then you live by that going forward. And we each do estimates prior to that date, that deliverable in September, and that's what we as a room live by going forward. So as the design continues along, we'll do estimates along the way then as well. And so then, yeah, we don't know what the envelope is gonna say when we open it, but it isn't just fingers crossed. We've already gone through two
Yes.
estimates along the way, and that's what the two different estimators come together and they reconcile that estimate and they say, okay, it turns out we've got to find some dollars here because we're a bit over, and we go through a bit of value engineering, and this is just a typical process. And then you get back to that same number that we create on September 10th at each of those estimates. And then as we get to whenever that, the bid timing is, which, we're obviously create all of this in terms of a calendar, we'll have estimated that twice with two estimators each time and reconcile that. So That is the process we've talked about so far.
Okay.
Different, appreciate what you said, and that's done as well. The only difference is that you don't have that yes until you have the bid in hand. But instead, what we're looking to do, which is also done, the approach that we're using is done with every school in the state, is to create that initial package and then live by it forever. And that's how that's done. So just to, and I say all this, so the whole room hears this, the two different approaches to
Sure.
it.
Yeah, and we've done both approaches, so we're very happy with doing that. One thing that we would say, and we all know how the bidding cycle, welcome to New England. Sometimes people think we live in sunny Florida and you can build all year, but as we know, putting foundations in the ground in January, February, March is not the optimum time. It can be done, but it's not optimum. What we would encourage is if you get this approved at town meeting, which hopefully it sounds like you will be able to do it. I don't know what the appetite is, but you definitely need the facility, we would probably try to say, get this package out on the street by March. Because I know that sounds very aggressive.
So when you say out on the street, you mean breaking ground by March?
No, I'm saying putting the bid package out.
Putting the bids out, okay.
So that if
all
you
right.
put this out at March, because what usually happens if you start pushing into the May, June, July, you'll still get bidders on it, don't get me wrong, but you don't get the optimum pricing because most of the DPWs we like to release in February. I can just tell you now that if you were releasing us on, November 19th, we cannot have it out by February. I mean, March we could have it out, but not by February. And so, but I'm just saying is, it does give you the better options on getting numbers because everybody likes to go into the springtime with a large project like this in place in their pocket so that they don't have to worry about, as opposed to competing with the schools and stuff. And not necessarily that the school contractors compete and everything with this. I'm anticipating this project is going to be over $10 million, so you will have to pre-qualify it. Again, Bid Docs has a pre-qualification process that can streamline it from, usually the process takes a minimum 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes 8 to 12. With the automation and stuff, you could technically do it in 2 days. And the only reason is because I think Steve and Matt will tell you that it's calling all the references that is very time consuming. The way we've automated the system, within 24 hours on the very first project that we did, we had 350 reference checks already done. We stored in the database and everything, so that all of a sudden, you literally, when the bids are open, you already have a pile of references there. And then it also assists in doing the evaluations and everything else. But anyways, we can get to that. But I would say that we will have to build into a period of time. And it's usually, and I call it a month because you need 2 weeks from advertisement to when the bids or the proposals are received. And then assuming that we spend 2 weeks reviewing them, even though if we're all aggressive and we want to sit around on a Friday evening, we could get through them in probably about 4 to 8 hours. Though I'm sure you guys have better things to do on a Friday evening, so, but we will have to go through the pre-qual process for that. So that would be our, kind of game plan, and that really is all contingent upon how successful we are all on getting the study hammered down, because at that point, come September, yeah, sure, we might need a little more survey or something, but we should not be making major decisions like, are we doing a separate building or are we making an addition?
No.
And again, we've dealt with towns, they say, let's take 2 options to the town. I go, not a good idea.
We're taking one.
One
Yep,
option,
one
No.
option.
Okay, great.
One option, one number.
right.
You're right, that's great.
So we'll get the information as has been discussed here. What we'd like to get from you is mapping out anticipated meetings and in a calendar so that everybody here can then bring that to the staffing and say, okay, this is what we're gonna need this week or this Friday or whatever the dates are that come for this, but just in one shot, map out all of the conversations that you're gonna need for the programming. And then everyone's got one package of it and can plan accordingly with all the busy staff and such in summer busyness.
Well, Keith, I would ask you from your perspective, and again, I've done it every imaginable way. Some are more successful than others. Typically, what we have found, the most successful ones are, we will work with the highway director or the sewer and water, supervisor, director, whatever their title is, and kind of get their input, prepare some sketches or work whatever we need, review the program. They take it to the staff and have the dialogue so they can moderate that. Now, we've also sat in meetings where the entire staff is there, okay? And of course, they have the wish list and all this other stuff. And the question is I don't know how you see the staff working and what you would recommend on that?
So I think it's gonna be a combination of both, to be honest. I think
Okay.
you're gonna have meetings with just the managers, maybe as a group or individually, and then I would suspect that they would, at least on the operations side, bring in their supervisors, to start discussing and, learn about your ideas and plans, and because I think they'll have input too. So I think you're gonna see more of a group setting, and then when you have like engineering and business management division, which is essentially the office staff, I would think that those two division managers, then they may bring some of their staff in too to discuss flow and all that stuff. So I think you're gonna have a lot of people to talk to, and I think they're all very collaborative, so, you may be able to set up group meetings with 3 or 4 division managers and their supervisors, or have individual phone calls, and I think they're all open to a lot of ways to do that. I don't.
Okay,
anybody-
that's fine. Are you ultimately the final say on things?
No, this is a team collaborative group. I think that's important because they live this day to day, and I think their input is way more important than mine.
Okay, but when I ask that question, excuse me, I mean it in more of a kind of a general. There are clearly needs at all of these facilities. Trucks need a certain size bay and everything else. I have seen, and I'm gonna say 90% of the time, it's very successful. They ask for things they legitimately need. Okay. However, in 10% of the cases, we have seen them expand the program so extensively that they turn these projects into $40, $50 million projects. Now, you as the
Not
members of
Yeah, that
select-
won't happen.
Nope,
Yeah.
not happening.
So, because I know right now, you probably have a sense of what the town's appetite for this budget is. Because I know Boxford has done it, Hudson knew we were not going to go over 20 million bucks. They kind of knew 20 million was about the limit that everybody would, digest. It's helpful to know that. We will still design to what the requirements are, but at the end of the day, if you're honestly telling me there is a $10 million budget, then there should be a $10 million design that we put on the plate, so that you can present that. And there's no reason to go to the 20, 30, $40 million plan. And so that's why I guess I'm just trying to get a feel for it, because perception is 90% of the game. And then the other thing too is I know there's a certain amount of education to the townspeople that are voting on this. For example, they have to come and see the operations, and we can tell you all, share all the things that we've, as I always say, do it on a soccer day, give away free popcorn and hot dogs with a juice. Everybody comes into the DPW for the free food. Then they look at the facility and they say, oh, these are terrible facilities, let's move on. I'm being somewhat facetious, but not that much,
Right.
because I think a lot of people do need to get out. But I guess the question is you as, the select board, I think you said you were on,
Yeah.
is there a sense on the appetite on this?
Absolutely. I mean, we are no strangers to building projects in Shrewsbury, so we've had many successful projects. When we bring forth a project in this town, it's because a building has come to the end of its useful life. We make the decision based on what's in the best financial interest of the taxpayer. So when we look at South Street, we see a water and sewer building circa 1950 that we know we wouldn't suggest putting taxpayer dollars into renovation. We all understand, and I think we've been clear with the community, that that building is coming down. Then we look at the other building, the DPW garage, which we just talked about, being about 50 years old. but it's in pretty good shape, right? So if there's an opportunity to use that building, that's something that Shrewsbury would want to do. We're very fiscally conservative in that way, if it makes fiscal sense, right? Like, when we design a building, when we go forward and we ask the communities to support a building project, we're looking at a building that's going to serve us for the next 50 years. And you've probably talked about numbers more than I'm comfortable talking about at such an early stage, right? Because I feel like the first number someone hears is the number that sticks in their head. And I want to be very clear with the public that we don't have that number yet. But that we understand that there's going to be a baseline of what's expected from the voters. That we are going to be putting forth a project that is not extravagant, but that meets the needs of the community and meets the needs of our workforce in a way that is respectful of what we're asking the taxpayers to fund. So I don't know if that helps you at all. Certainly not looking for something that's $40 million. You know, we just did a police station for about $42 million.
A little bit under that.
Right, but we have a reputation in Shrewsbury of coming in on time and on or under budget, and so we would like to continue that.
That's kind of an expectation. in
That's
town that we-
fine, yeah.
And just to, thank you, Beth, for the comments. You know, you were talking about the programming, talking about with staff and getting everything that they want to have and coming back to us. I think at that point, we'll be able to sort through within the number that we have to work with, what are the wants and what are the needs. Well, obviously, we will do we'll do the needs.
Yes.
That goes without saying. If there are wants that, some are more important than others, if we can fit them in, I think we did that with the police station. We tried to give as many wants as we could while still being fiscally conservative and making sure that the building, you know, came in within the number that we said. So, but that will be the job of the committee. We want all the input from staff, division managers, all of that, but then when it comes down to it, we'll be looking at the numbers and sorting out exactly what the project entails.
Okay, Yeah.
And I think another piece to add to that is that our staff is pretty smart, and they understand what they need. They also understand that the difference between a nice to have and a extravagance. And we typically are, as Beth said, very fiscally conservative, and that goes all through our staff too. So we're not getting, I don't expect them to be asking for anything that they wouldn't consider a much improved efficiency on their programming.
okay, no, that's great. And again, we feel very strongly about the fact that we should present all the options to you, present things like the existing highway garage. Because one thing I know as a citizen in our town, as well as I'm sure you deal with, people just remember that the DPW project was already done. And they don't want you coming back 3, 4, 5 years saying, oh, now we need $5 million to upgrade the existing highway. They might, you know, not be happy with the larger number up front, but this is, to me, I view it as, this is the DPW project, even though I know, you know, the sewer and water is probably the bigger chunk of it, because they're getting, you know, a new facility. But again, I look at the highway department and say, whatever upgrades that are reasonably needed on that should probably be rolled into this project, for the simple fact that people will perceive this as the DPW. I don't know if you share that sentiment or not. I just don't see them coming back saying, we need $5 million.
Oh, no, we're not coming back. So this is a one and done, right?
Right.
We want to create something on this piece of land that's going to serve our DPW in its entirety, and that includes water and sewer, right? And we want a building that is not opulent, but meets the basic needs of operations for our DPW workers. I mean, right now, we're looking at a building where the ceilings are falling down.
Yes, I saw that.
We're looking at inadequate shower facilities. You know, we need to get the basics in there so that when we have workers that are coming back in from a water main break or a sewer break, they have a place to shower. We need facilities so that when there's a long duration storm, the plow drivers have a place to close their eyes before they go back out on the road. So we're looking for the kinds of things that most of our residents probably think already exist but don't exist.
Right. You know, I walked through the facilities. The sewer and water is definitely tough.
Yeah. There's no point in saving that. That's the
No.
exact kind of building that we would say, this is not a good use of taxpayer dollars.
Absolutely not.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
The other question for you is, what are your sentiments on, you know, net zero or any of those? I know some towns are really buying into it, like Acton's doing their new DPW. They're part of that special 10-town legislature and stuff. We've done net zero buildings. We know how to do them. We design all of our buildings to be net zero ready, okay? I know that the current stretch code basically tries to drive you very heavily to all electrification and stuff. But if I were to be very honest with you right now, and based on what we have experienced stuff, a hybrid building is really the best solution. You know, now if you tell me go all net zero, we will be happy to go all net zero. But if you have gas on that site, I would keep that gas and use it judiciously as you need to. Office areas and stuff lend themselves very well to, and by the way, these DPW buildings are fabulous to get net zero. It's basically the trucks don't require a lot of heat, you know, and you can focus all the energy consumption in the office area and stuff. But again, there are some drawbacks with, you know, net zero. I believe you guys are on National Grid.
We are not.
No.
We're not, we have our own.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We're a muni-
Okay, that's right.
We're also a green community.
Okay.
Yes.
We have a fairly new municipal climate action plan. It's about a year old. Just started a sustainability committee, so I think as part of this feasibility process, I think we need to explore that.
Okay.
And we need to head in that direction.
Okay, not a problem. So you would go for the net zero approach if possible?
It's something we need to look at if it's,
Okay.
if.
Look at it,
if
yes.
If it is feasible.
Yes.
For us to do there.
There is something almost, that doesn't have to be zero, it's also very good. You know, you can provide an energy efficient building, you can have renewables on site, you can do all those things, but not zero. And I know lots of projects that we work through in our office aren't zero, but, you know, whatever the percentages that may not be zero is also really good. And especially
Yes.
if you have gas on site, it's hard to get zero when you're using gas on site. But
Right.
anyway,
Yeah, but I mean,
my only point is, it doesn't have to be a zero or nothing conversation. You know, there's lots of good things you can do and generate on site to be very energy efficient, including with renewables on site.
And I would suggest, since we have our own municipal electric company, I think we really need to look at electrification and the
Okay.
opportunities there. We have a great partnership with Selco, who can help us through with a lot of this
Yes.
stuff. They're putting solar on our brand new police station next door. They're managing that project, so I think it's
It's a good opportunity.
an opportunity for us, for sure. Because I think we can be at least greenhouse gas emission free on that site, as far as the building operations go.
Again, I have no doubts that we can get you to net zero or almost to zero, whatever you guys want. I'm absolutely confident we can do that. I just wanted to get your sense on that. I know in some cases, again, some of the towns want it for whatever reason. Some of them will just bring the gas line to the building and stub it off right at the outside, meet their net zero, so that tomorrow, if they need to bring the gas line in, they can bring the system in. I mean, so I just wanted to get a sense of where you're coming from.
So I guess my question around that is to go completely net zero, it sounds like that comes with an upfront cost to it versus,
Well, you're basically buying the solar panels,
yeah,
okay? Because I don't think there's going to win to make sense or anything.
right.
So chances are, the beauty of these buildings is, let's be honest, your existing highway garage is about 30,000 square feet, okay? Your existing water sewer is, I think, 10,000. Let's say it grows to 10, 15,000, 20,000. Okay. You've got a lot of roof area up there. Now, when we did Medway, one of the things that we had to do is we had to put truck canopies out there to pick up, you know, some solar panels there, which was great because that also reduced some of the cost on, you know, housing trucks inside. Basically, you just want the trucks ready to go during the snowstorms and stuff. So you don't want people shoveling snow and ice off the vehicles. Not all trucks need to be indoors. Standard pickup truck or something like that, they can live outside very comfortably. Your vac trucks, some of your plow trucks and stuff, those are much better housed indoors and stuff. So there's a mix of the way we do. It's just that cost of that initial investment on the solar, you know. Now, if the municipal, you know, light department is willing to work with us, if this were like an Eversource or a National Grid, I know they have all these grant programs and stuff, and that's one of the things Faye in our office does very well. Because I know that we got about $800,000 grants from Medway, which basically gave them a payback period with the grants and everything of about 7 years, 6 to 7 years, as opposed to the longer periods without that. Sounds like you've got a great partnership. We'll be happy to have that discussion with them. But we can achieve what you would like to do. But when you say the upfront cost, yes, it is the actual solar system that you're putting in there. As far as the building and stuff, there is essentially no difference. Because to design an energy efficient building, I don't care whether you're using gas or
Right,
electric.
right. No, that part.
You're gonna get, it's straightforward. You will see that we do some details that help us achieve that. Because what did we do, Mike? 30% better?
25.
25% better than the stretch code on Hudson,
Mhm.
okay? And didn't drive the cost up, it's just literally how you detail, the building and stuff. So we would bring that same experience to this project, because at the end of the day, whether it's gas or electrification, the important thing is to reduce the cost on utilities
Mhm.
to run the building.
Yep.
And so that's a given. So you will get that regardless, with little or no cost increase. It's just a matter of whether you put the renewables on site or not. And that's kind of the delta. That could range from $1 million to, $3 million, depending on how much you need. So,
Okay, yeah, I think it's definitely worth exploring.
okay,
Yep.
great, no problem. And I believe that is all my questions and everything at this time. So Steve, I'll turn it back to you if you have anything.
Oh, it's, sure.
No.
I had one other.
Sure, Beth.
So one of the things that we had spoken about regarding like community, like amenities, I guess I'll call them, on the site. There's a desire to have more yard waste drop-offs, possibly a community composting bin, pile, I don't even know what you use when it's for the community, and then a place to recycle. We already have the cardboard dumpster on site, but I don't know if there'd be room for a second or some other sort of recycling capabilities, but definitely the yard waste, and maybe you can speak a little bit more to that, but having some way for the public to access those kinds of features, we definitely hear from the community that they'd like more of that ability to
Yes,
do those
definitely.
things self-service.
Yeah, there's a few things. So like Beth mentioned, so we do a yard waste drop-off there 6 or 7 times a year. So that's one item. And then we've had the desire from community members to trying to get compost from that to use for their gardens. So maybe there's an opportunity for a space for that to happen. And then generally recycling. So residents get curbside pickup for recycling at their homes, but they don't always have the opportunity. And then there's a cardboard dumpster there where people can drop off cardboard, but people continually ask us for other opportunities to recycle, whether it's metal, can, bottles, plastic, all of that stuff. And many communities have the little site set up where you come in and you can separate your stuff and share it. So we'd like to potentially do something like that to help promote more recycling. And then, of course, if we do move staff there will have to be a public-facing area for staff, for the residents to park and go to a window and talk about their water bill or whatever it is that they would like to do, or meet with the engineering department on a project, that sort of thing. So those kind of spaces will be.
Yeah, in addition to, on the recycling part, I don't know if it's possible, but I know with all the deliveries everybody gets now with Amazon and all that, styrofoam, I don't know if that's a possible.
Well, yeah, it's
thing that we
something
can-
like we need space to, I
Yeah.
think we have to determine how that.
Right,
stuff-
right.
styrofoam gets recycled, but long story short, we need
Yeah, we need
a space for.
that and
residents to be able to
textiles,
bring
yeah.
items and stuff
Yeah.
like that, so.
So, Groton has a recycling center and transfer station there. You can either pay to have, private, waste management or somebody like that pick up your recycling and stuff, or you can go down to the recycling center during the week. It's a popular space and place to be. If you're running for politics, if you're a selectman and you do not go to the recycling center, you're not gonna get elected. I'm just telling you now, okay?
Right.
That's where they sign the petitions, that's where they do school petition. It's right across from the playing field, so it's a very active, and it is almost like a second community center, if I can say that in a kind of an odd way. So we are familiar with those. I mean, I personally do that myself and meet a lot of people and meet a lot of politicians that are running for, so that's great from that perspective. The real issue, though, I find with that, which is, you know, it's just a decision and a commitment by the town, is how do you want to manage that? Because while the DPW staff runs it, you do have balers and everything else. They have, you know, the front end loader comes in at least 2 or 3 times on a Saturday and pushes all the paper to the back as everybody dumps their bag right there, or the cans right at the front.
So we're not building a transfer station.
Yeah.
We're just.
I understand you're not,
We're just
but I'm
talking
saying,
about an extra
but I'm
drop-off
saying
area.
still, the question
Oh, you're
is,
A few dumpsters and they can put stuff
I
in.
Yeah.
dump off my paper, I dump my cardboard and stuff. It's like, let's just talk cardboard. They used to have the crushers at Groton. Okay, they've shut those off to the public because public would jam and everything. So now we have concrete blocks with a shed over it that we stack all our cardboard. Mrs. Jones comes off and drops off all her Amazon boxes. She does a nice job because she crushes them all and puts them in, okay. Other people come in, they just dump the whole box and everything. It piles up very quickly. And so what I meant by having the loader and stuff come in, somebody either has to push that back so that the next people coming through, then the question is, how do you bail them and stuff? And then obviously, and I'm sure you can talk to many of the towns that have this, is the cost for some of this recycling too. Because sometimes it's more expensive to recycle than to dispose, because there is just no market for some of this stuff. So that's all I'm saying, that would have to have a little further discussion.
Yep.
Same thing like with the composting and everything. In general, composting is great, yard waste and all of that. The issue about whether you can turn that composting into, you know, where people can pick up some of this composted material, again, that's a management effort.
Yep.
Because the compost has to be turned over and maintained, and, you know, you don't want me dumping my paint cans in with the leaves that I kind of forgot that I had paint cans in there and stuff. And again, those are somewhat, you know, dramatic issues. But the point being is composting only works as well as the material that's dumped in there.
Right.
And me dumping in my old logs, well, they're decaying. Yeah, but that's a big difference than, you know, doing leaf and yard. So I am all for this, and we will support you 100% on this. I'm just saying that it is an added burden on the town to decide if they're going to have somebody man and do this. Because right now, what we call the composting pile is, I understand that the public can come and dump their yard waste and everything there. Or that was my understanding. I don't know if that's true
Yeah,
or
a
not.
few times a year and then we'd haul it off.
Generally on
Yeah.
Saturdays,
Okay.
yeah.
So, the other thing too, I would encourage, which, you know, we would encourage it, if these activities are happening, basically you want people in and out as quickly as possible, and you do not want them interfering with the fleet.
Mhm.
And so you will see us push very hard to try to segregate these operations, because whether it's manned or not manned, that's the decision the town can make. But you definitely do not want fleet operations being impacted, because I decide to bring my trailer that wasn't really hitched on right, falling off in the middle of the entrance, and nobody can get out now.
Right, no, of course,
Yeah.
but because we're at the initial stages here and we're at the design concept stage, I think it's fair to have all ideas or all concepts on the table. We can then sort out whether it would be a need or a want at that point, depending on costs and
Right.
logistics and,
And I
Other
agree with that.
things.
And like I said, we don't even have a problem with planning these things for future use.
Mhm.
Because you might decide, yeah, we're gonna go with this, but we're gonna keep the composting kind of where it is now.
Right.
But we do have this area designated so that if we do decide to move in that, maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, whatever the decision may be. So, we will be happy to work with you on that. I just wanted to share that there are operational implications on all of these things that as long as the town is aware of them,
Yep.
we're good with that. Because I don't like, for remember example, whether you guys have a truck wash bay. I don't think you did, or if I did, I missed it.
We do not.
Yes, and that is a code requirement now, and so we will be putting a wash bay in one of these. Now, whether you decide to put a joint wash bay that is shared by the highway and water and sewer, that's a decision you can make, or do they get their own? Again, it sounds like you have a very collaborative, working staff and stuff. I only say that because Eversource is a big client of ours, and for the longest time, the underground crews would not meet with the overhead crews. and you couldn't even put them in the same locker room, till finally management says, well, just don't shower, we don't care, all you guys are going in the same locker room because you're all one company. Those are things like that that we would ask. If you said, no union rules or something, tell me we can't do that, that's fine. Sounds like you're not there, it sounds like you guys are very cooperative, but like, for example, is one wash bay adequate for all the vehicles in the, you know? Now, obviously, it'd be properly sized to do all your trucks and everything, but the point being is, there's no reason for you to have multiple wash bays. That would be, unless you tell me there's a compelling reason, you
Nope.
know? Because those are just,
Right.
again, it's something that's, you know, just needs to be maintained and stuff. Not a really heavy maintenance or anything, it's just an easy thing to do. And then we'll get into the nitty-gritties of like how we do the sand pits and everything with the grates, so you don't clog up your drains, and it's just again, a maintenance thing on that. Because you have town water and sewer, it's gonna make it a lot easier than a septic and a holding tank. So that's great news, you know, so.
Anybody have anything else?
I found the email on that trail. It's Fruit Street, Arbor Drive to South Street. It's the old BWALT section of the trail, if that means something to someone, because it doesn't to me.
I wonder if it's that.
I think it is.
It's right there.
That little trail that you see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is
North to the DPW, it says. So I'm wondering if it's like that little ring loop.
Are you saying is this trail here or?
No, I think it's that sliver, that red.
Okay, so that's the trail, yeah. Because right now you have like DPW operations occurring in this
Yep.
general area.
Yep.
So. But I didn't see a trail there.
Yeah, I think
Unless
we'd have
you're
to,
looking
I mean, I'm sure we can ask someone from the Trails Committee to mark it out for us.
yeah.
Yeah.
They'd be happy to, but
Because,
it's
I mean,
there.
When I was there, I saw the piles and stuff here and some piles there, but I didn't actually see a
Yeah,
trail.
this, I don't, it may not go all the way through,
Okay.
but yeah, we'll take a look.
Yeah, we'll find it.
Would you pave it as well?
Would I pave it? I don't know. I'd need to look at it first.
Okay,
Yeah.
Talk to the Trails Committee.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't think they
I
like
don't
to pave
picture a
things.
trail as paved.
I think they like, I think the Trails Committee is more like a dirt trail.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, if that's all, I guess I guess that was our review and discuss outreach portion, yes? Are we on to
I have
next?
more outreach.
You do?
Was this just?
Then go.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
So I took this to mean outreach to the public and how we were gonna let the
Yeah.
public.
Ah, okay, maybe it is.
Is that,
That's my understanding.
Okay. All right, so we are on item number 4, review and discuss outreach.
yeah,
Beth, you have thoughts?
I do. So, tours, I think tours are really important. Tours for town meeting members, so that we specifically invite them. Tours for the general public, however we want to structure those. You know, I think you pick a couple of days. You throw in like a Saturday perhaps, an evening, maybe a daytime, during the week. Get people there. Let's try to figure out a way to make the tour 30 minutes, because I don't think people's attention span goes farther than 30 minutes really, for something like this. And then I would also recommend that we work with Shrewsbury Media Connection to do a recorded tour of about 30 minutes that we can get put out on local cable, and could also maybe go out when Taylor does her emails to town meeting members, so that there's another way for people to see it. I don't know that we have a website up and running yet, but I think we need to
No.
get
Yep,
a project website, and then we could also have that tour linked to the project website. And we need to have some sort of basic rationale document for the project that we put on that website. And then the last thing I thought of was the newsletter, the quarterly newsletter that we put out from the town. Maybe we can talk to Taylor about having a feature story on this project. I have, just from the work that was done for the police station, like I pulled up the letter that we did to town meeting members. And if we wanted to sort of replicate something like this, you know, we're still not really sure if we're doing like a campaign committee, like if that sort of thing is happening, but I think you can still replicate a letter to town meeting members if we wanted to put something out from the town.
Right.
Right, because we are not a campaign committee, and we
Right.
don't know what direction we're heading in yet. But it basically goes through, you know, what's the project, why now? Like, why is this the right time? What are the challenges in the building? Because I think those are the questions that people have. And then, you know, why would we be asking the taxpayers to fund something like this? So just sort of get the basic information out to people, and I'm happy to do some drafting on this specific project if Taylor, you know, wanted to kind of work with me on it.
Okay.
Or if we wanted to have Taylor do it completely, given she's our communications
Yeah,
person.
we can talk to her.
But we can figure that out. But those are just some of the ideas I had. Like, you want to make sure, even though it's summer and people maybe aren't tuned in, that there's plenty of opportunities for people to
them
start
to-
to understand that
Right.
there's a project
Right.
in the pipeline, so that we don't have surprises at town meeting.
Keith, don't we do a truck event for like the kids?
Oh, we don't do it at South Street anymore. They do it up here at Town Hall now, and that's not till October.
Okay.
We
I was just
typically,
thinking that
we used to
might be
do
a way
that.
of attracting the public
Yeah,
in.
we used
for-
to do it in June.
Yeah.
I think the video tour, I think, is something that will help us get a lot more detail to the residents. We can do physical tours. I think that'll be difficult for them to get into places to see where all the bad stuff is, because there is a lot of, we have to figure out how that tour is gonna look.
Could we just not walk them through the water and sewer?
Well, I think
I don't
we
know.
could.
It's a smaller
I suppose
building.
we could, like the highway garages, the big garage is much easier to, and safer for people to, well, I shouldn't say
Yeah.
safer, but much easier for people to walk through, much more wide open.
Yeah.
So we would just have to plan some time where we can get some of the trucks out of the building so that they can have good pathways and do that, but.
May I share some experiences that we've had with other towns?
Please.
One of the things is, first I would have what the DPW does. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but most people think that all the DPW does is plow the roads. They don't understand they maintain the ball fields and stuff. And it's amazing how all of a sudden you can get buy-in when the athletic, groups and stuff say, oh, they actually maintain the fields. I believe your building, your DPW also does all the facilities. And so, again, I would share all those things they do, the emergency water, and the first section should be, this is what your DPW does for you. Because 90% of the townspeople have no clue what the DPW does. As far as the videos and stuff, we have found, because you have a wonderful asset there called the water and sewer building, okay? That's basically all you need to show to get, because when we did Whitman and stuff, we showed the one toilet stall with a cheesy partition, no door on it, and said, this is the crew's restroom. And the sink was outside, and then we photographed the wood stove with the piles of wood next to it that were used to heat the space. Okay? People didn't really care about the rest of the show. So I would say, take advantage of the sewer and water. You'd be hard pressed to run them through the highway department and tell me how bad that is. Because they do actually keep it very nice, and it's not your star building if you're trying to show bad.
That was kind of my thought.
It's pretty decent building.
But we're also talking about not knocking it down either, right?
Oh, no, I'm not saying knock it down. I'm just saying that if, when you talk about like a 30-minute video or something, what I'm saying is you show some strategic pictures, like 4 or 5 pictures of water and sewer, and toss in another picture or 2 of the highway garage. People get a pretty good sense immediately what's happening, because your water and sewer is tough. And you
Right, and I
all-
mean, it could be a 20-minute video, but I
Yeah.
saw spaces also in our highway garage.
Break area.
The break area, the
Locker rooms.
restrooms,
Yep.
where there isn't
Yes.
adequate facilities for men and women.
No doubt.
That there's no place to rest on a long-duration storm. Like, I do think there are compelling images from that. And the fumes also was the other thing that stuck out to me. And I know you can't capture fumes on a video, but I think that the fumes that kind of seep from one area to another are very concerning to me in that building.
Anyways, those are just some of the things that
Yeah.
I've,
That's a good point about
um,
what is the DPW.
Yeah, I think it's
It
great.
is, yeah.
I mean, I remember when we were talking about Beal, right? And we did tours for town meeting members. They were not, it was not hordes of people.
No.
There were maybe 8.
And I did a walkthrough video with the iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, and we managed the police station because it was
Yep.
COVID without, and we did the
Yep.
tour, the video tour.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be 30 minutes, right? It could be 20
Yeah,
minutes.
no, but the one the chief did when he walked through the old
Yeah,
building.
after it was built.
That looped continuously.
Oh,
Yeah.
That was it.
And
So-
that was really, it's just really important, I think, to make sure that people have opportunities to see, get the visual on it,
agree.
for sure.
Fumes will show up on the tours.
Fumes? How?
On
Oh,
the
you mean on the tours? Yeah,
Yeah.
not on the
Oh, on the
video.
tour.
Yes.
I'm
No,
suggesting-
fumes show up on a tour, for
Yeah.
sure.
Video
Yeah.
tour, yeah.
Really? How?
It's a new technology. You scratch and smell, you watch and smell, you know?
Yeah.
The other key thing is, which, and you hit it, you know, is getting the town, the select board, finance committee and stuff. I would take them through the buildings first to start getting their buy-in.
We've been through. The select board's been through. We did a 30-minute, we have a show called Select Board Roundtable.
Okay.
And we did a 30-minute show in the town garage, and, you know, tried to highlight some of the deficiencies of the building, and we used a lot of the pictures that, I think you guys had taken them, and someone took them. You had them,
Yep.
and just sort of, you know, gave that perspective, for residents to sort of see. And hopefully that's out there in the community, but again, I'm not hearing any buzz about it, so it's hard to really know.
Well, yeah, again, I guess the bigger issue is you want the select board to be unified in when they speak with one voice when they say, we're supporting this.
Yes.
Same thing with FinCom and everything.
No, agreed on the select board. So this actually, if we wanted to walk it back even farther, when we, the beginning of the year, we're doing a whiteboarding as to capital needs, just across the board, looking at all of our buildings, including our school buildings and the water treatment, because we need to do a PFAS water treatment plant. And we sort of kind of timelined out, and it kind of rose to the surface that this facility was the one that needed the most attention in the shortest amount of time. So we had a presentation to the select board at the end of March, where Keith outlined for us exactly what the deficiencies were in both buildings. And at that time, the select board said, you know, this is the project that we need to bring forward, and that's how we ended up here.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'm out.
No? That was excellent. Yeah, so, well, it sounds like we all have a lot to do.
We do.
You know, and I think some of the buzz that, I think there are a couple of things. Number one, it's summertime. Number two, we haven't been on TV. Now, I don't know how much buzz that will create, but I think it will generate some attention. People know that we're now moving forward with at least the conceptual design on this, and the feasibility study to see what's possible. So I think that will help. And then as we put information out there about coming down, doing a tour, you know, drop off your cardboard, come in and take a look around.
Right.
Yeah, that type of thing.
Don't
If we
forget the
have-
popcorn.
And
Don't forget the
Well,
popcorn
no,
and
they're not
bottles of water and.
The
I'm
popcorn,
telling you, people come for free food. I don't know
popcorn
what it
machine would
is.
be a want, not a need.
What's that?
The popcorn machine would be a want,
Oh,
not a
no, I'm
need.
just talking about for the
I know.
tours.
Yeah, no, for sure. You know, we could even have it be a sign up if we needed to control the numbers. You know, we could, if we do it for town meeting members, I don't think you're going to be overwhelmed.
When's our July drop-off date, Keith?
It's the last
the last.
Saturday in July.
Can we make that a day that's available for if people want to tour?
We may be able to, yeah. Maybe
Because your town's about 25,000?
40.
40,
yeah.
okay. Because just to go, you know, with like Groton and, you know, some of the smaller towns stuff, they usually had anywhere from 50 to 100 people show up over a course of like a 4-hour period. So if you have 40,000, say you double that or triple that, you know, so you're probably, if you had like a window from, I don't know, say 10 to 2, you're probably looking at about, you know, potentially 300 to 400 people that might walk through during that period, if you were to have them on any given day or something. I don't think you'll have
Yeah.
1,000 rushing
No.
it. If you do,
I wouldn't
No.
be, I would be surprised if we got to 400.
Yeah, I would.
again, I'm just basing it on the, you know, Groton,
There's some
which is
good
a-
community participation in Groton. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there is.
Well,
But I
can we
think
do it-
the opportunity on the Saturdays where there's drop-off,
Yes.
and that thing is busy for 4 hours, and if we just had a
Yeah.
sign out there, so please feel free to, you know, whatever it said, to take a tour of the water sewer building and the highway
We had a
department.
couple balloons and kids will
Yeah,
come
that
with them
type
and
of thing,
stuff.
you
Yeah.
know.
So we'll have one in August too, so.
Yeah.
Right, right. And we have people there already, that was my thought.
I mean, we have 2 precincts that vote in the water and sewer
Yep.
building also, so I think that they have I mean, they don't see the worst of it, but they do
No.
have
Get
some
a pretty good
sense,
idea what's there.
you know, of what it's like in that.
So that's actually a voting precinct too.
It is.
It is.
Okay.
Keep that in mind when you're designing.
I
the building.
will. I didn't, I've never heard of a DPW being a voting precinct, but now there's new one.
Well, in terms of timing for this group, seems like all the programmatic work will have to be done. What do we see for timing to come back to this group? Because other than a project update, which is great, I don't know that there's a real ask to this group. We do have to work the contract,
Right.
which is underway.
Yep.
On that side, certainly back to this group, we have 2 seconds on that. We have a contract form that we've just about got teed up to submit for your guys' review and acceptance. We do have a proposal. I'm not sure if that's been distributed or not, just came in the
No,
other week.
all that's through the manager's office. not-
Everybody has that okay?
Yeah, the contracts, we voted to have the manager approve the contract, so it doesn't
Right.
have to
Okay.
come, it does not have to come to this board.
No.
Okay, good. I didn't know that. Okay, excellent. So is the contract form the same?
Yep.
Okay, excellent.
Yep.
So, in terms of the next meeting here, I'm just, easy to say we should meet in 2 weeks, but do we have product in 2 weeks?
Well, that was gonna
Yeah.
be my question.
Because we
It,
gotta be
it
careful.
kinda sounds like the ball, we've had this discussion today, it sounds like the ball is kind of now you're in your
Yep.
court.
Yep.
I heard a 30-day time, you know,
Yep.
the next deadline is kind of 30 days away from now.
What's your sense, Greg, as far as an update or a deliverable or questions for this board to get feedback?
Well, again, realistically, if I were to get everything from Keith tomorrow,
Yep.
I mean, let's say he just got all the reports and the topo and everything and dropped it off to me.
Don't be surprised.
Don't be surprised.
And I'm not, I'm not gonna be surprised, but the point being is, there's quite a bit of information that we just have to review and
Sure.
digest, okay? And so that we will probably spend, in a better part of a week with the team digesting the material and stuff. We will then start to put some outlines together so that we can see it. That would be then followed up by site surveys with the team, so everybody can see the facility, which then means that we would be, probably 2 weeks into that. And about the third week, we'd start putting some concepts together, meeting with some of the staff on so 3-week period, we could give you an update, but realistically, 4 weeks is, once that's done at the 4-week period, then I think that if we went to the 2-week schedule, that would be realistic, because we could say, these are the concepts, or, the groups, the stakeholders have bought into this, are you good with this? At that point, even if it's just, a square footage cost, we can start giving you some numbers, saying that this is 10 million, 20 million, 25 million, or whatever the project number is, so that at least you can see where we're going, so that by the time we get to that, September 9th date, you're not surprised and say, what do you mean we're at 35 million? So I would say the first month is probably good with that. And then obviously, like with everybody else, we have some staff that are taking off some time for the for the summer break and stuff. That's not gonna stop us, but again, I can't guarantee that my mechanical engineer is gonna be there for the full 4 weeks, because I think he might have some time in. So I'm saying the first 4, so what's?
Sounds like 8/12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8/12, yeah, that would be fine. Is that a Monday?
Yes.
Okay, great.
That timeline gives us 2 Monday meetings after that if we stuck to the 2-week schedule
Yes.
for the 10th.
And it'll
Well,
be
if we
again
needed to, we could go to every week.
Yes, we could.
Okay, and so that will be, we're doing all the meetings here at 5:30? Is that the idea?
Hopefully.
Okay,
The room should be available. Yeah.
That far out.
This one or next door?
Yep. So yes, I would say the 12th. I will be on the Cape, but I can phone in,
Okay.
Zoom in, or
Mhm.
something like that.
I'm
I don't
here.
see myself driving back.
I wouldn't drive back. That's far. I can chair. It's fine.
Excellent.
Okay.
So, August 12th, 5:30, next
Yes.
meeting date.
Okay.
All right. Other business. We covered a lot tonight. Anybody have anything else? No? All
well,
right.
again, I would just like to say thank you for having confidence in us. We look forward to working with you. I mean that sincerely.
Sure.
Because we do the DPWs. we were excited that you shortlisted us, and as you can see just by the presentation, we do want to get involved, and so, again, thank you.
You're welcome. We're looking forward to seeing what you come up with. That brings us to item 7, adjournment. Anybody have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted unanimously. Thank you, everybody.
Good.
Thank you. Have a good night.